And that's it for the summary for the day of 553 for the 554 for the 30th to 31st of August. So some conclusion. Haven't done conclusion for some time because of all these changes in terms of formattings. So no people ask me for conclusion. So no conclusions. The significant information is this. I have done a video on this about the Ukrainians dropping their offensive towards Berdyansk, and I actually did notice this reduction in terms of the fighting, the intensity of fighting over in the Robotyne, STAROMAIORSKE region. I haven't seen the Ukrainians doing a concerted offensive operation in this area here for some time, and this is also why I was triggered to actually look closer at that part of the report by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and this is also why I managed to spot that they have quietly dropped the word Berdyansk from their report. So whatever we are seeing over here at the Velika Novosilka sector is the Ukrainian forces trying to secure STAROMAIORSKE, Robotyne, as well as maybe capture Prione. Because they need Prione in order to secure this region in a better way, to push the Russians back to the next line, so that they can actually have a firm control over this region here. And what the Ukrainians would need is actually capturing the entire western part of STAROMAIORSKE, the entire northern part, and the northeastern part of Prione. And then they need also the entire eastern part of Robotyne. This will at least give them some kind of a straight front line that they can actually hold better, and some very more defendable positions. And of course, the Ukrainians, people will always claim that yeah, of course, Ukrainians will want Zavidne Bazania, but easier said than done. And also that any claims about the Ukrainians going for Starolimnivka is probably not true. We totally have no evidence of Ukrainian forces getting anywhere close to Starolimnivka, despite of all these reports from Miroshnikov, this pro-Ukrainian source, talking about heading towards Starolimnivka. So this is also why Miroshnikov, while he seems to feature quite a bit, that's because he reports a lot more, and a lot of very unique information. But it does also shows that he's still pretty much a fanboy, and that his information only allows him to be a secondary source, which is what he is. He is not part of my primary source. Primary source is like Deep State UA, Ryba. These are primary sources. So the Ukrainian forces are continuing to send reinforcement to this area here. So this is probably to aid them in securing that line that I was mentioning about. The other major Ukrainian offensive towards Melitopol, this one, which is the Orikhiv sector. The Orikhiv sector, the Ukrainian forces are stuck. If you ask me, it looks a lot like they have stuck. The Ukrainian forces' ideal plan was actually to capture Robotyne, create a zone, put pressure on Novoprokopivka, continue to spread out, and close up against this major defense line that the Russians have built up, and probably even flank backwards, capture the high ground, the trench lines over here. However, as far as I can tell, there is no evidence, despite Surya maps did map that the Ukrainians have captured this. I have no clear indication that the Ukrainians actually captured these trench lines or on the western part of Robotyne. In fact, there's a high chance that the Russians are still holding these trench lines around Robotyne, and the Ukrainians are simply just bypassing, and they are trying to attack in this way. And this looks like to be the case, because we must also take note that these are two lines of defenses. There's another two lines here. This is designed to actually discourage the Ukrainians to try to attack between Kopani and Robotyne. Is a deliberate thing. They design it in a way to funnel Ukrainian forces into this area here. They don't want them to go through in this direction. So, which is why, and you can actually kind of see why, because this entire area is just one massive piece of farmland, and these kind of places can get very troublesome. But I'm not sure. This is just how the Russians have defended design the defense lines. And indeed, the Ukrainians are pushing in these directions, and they are now finding it very hard to push further down, as this is major lines and you can actually get hit from two sides. So maybe this is also why we are seeing that the Ukrainians are focusing their effort in this direction. They are heading towards Verbove, and I find that the breakthrough previously was very interesting, that they just drive through the center road around the two major lines, and I find this very hilarious. But we have this counterattack reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, which might suggest that the Russians have actually managed to recapture this ground. So this is the focus now. But I have my doubts whether the Ukrainians can continue to keep up this offensive. I have heard rumors that they are running out. Rumors from my own sources. So we shall see how this goes. The Ukrainian forces still have not deployed their Challenger tanks into frontline actions. There are still a lot of Leopard 2 tanks that was also not seen in action, despite they claim that they were. So the Ukrainians still have some forces left, but the key thing is this: even if the Ukrainians still have another 50 Leopard 2s, you cannot use them all, because you also need them to use for defensive purposes. For example, all these grounds that the Ukrainians have captured need to be held. How to hold this line is not just trenches, you also need tanks. So this is also why you cannot just exhaust all your tanks, all your armored vehicles in their offensive. You can capture the ground, but you cannot hold it, then there's no point. So which is also why maybe that's why we are not seeing more actions from this Ukrainian tanks, and the situation currently is still pretty dynamic around this Verbove region. A lot of claims, a lot of random claims, a lot of Ukrainian claims about Ukrainians having, you know, this kind of capture, which I don't think is accurate. It doesn't sounds very sensible, doesn't sound very logical. So anyway, the situation at Orikhiv continue to be very exciting. Otherwise, Russian Kupyansk offensive is a joke as far as I am concerned. It's no longer really an offensive. So it's a bit difficult to call it an offensive anymore at this rate, because the Russians are pretty much just playing around, as far as I can tell. So they are just luring the Ukrainians into counter offensive, because the Russians did indeed make a push. They did manage to capture grounds. However, they are just holding the line, and they are just tempting the Ukrainians to attack them. So, and the Ukrainians did indeed constantly attacking them. Just like in Sinkivka, 19th to 31st of August, every day there was a Ukrainian attack against the Russian forces over in the Sinkivka region. So this is not looking really good, and the Russians are also not pushing, because if they push, we will know, we will see it. So tentatively, things look pretty dead. And the situation over at the Kreminna front is also very comical. We have constant reports about Ukrainians attacking. Like, the Ukrainians are constantly doing this Kreminna offensive, especially in the forest region, fighting at Dibrova, Kuzmine, Serebrensky Forestry at Torske, and then in the end, all we get in terms of frontline changes was Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, showing that the Russians actually are capturing this ground. Like, the previous line was like this. The Russians actually captured more ground. So yeah, it's very weird. Yeah, it's just weird. The other main front line is actually in the southern part of Bakhmut front, and the Ukrainian forces are trying their best to secure this area here. This is the objective, so that they can put fire control on this road and deny the Russians from using the road to supply to Bakhmut from the Donetsk or Holivka region. So in case you do not know, this Holivka, this Donetsk. So they can use this highway to resupply Bakhmut. So, which is also why fighting around Mayos is pretty important, because this Mayos is where the junction is, where the Russians are using this road to go up. According to our mapping, that Ukrainians do have fire control on this road, but we do not have updates on this area for a very, very long time. And Surya Maps actually mapped the Russians actually to be something like this. So we will have to take the mapping here with a pinch of salt, because this is a very underappreciated position. So we don't have a lot of information about this area here. So this road is pretty important for the Russians, and the Ukrainians do want to capture Klishchiivka, Andriivka, Kuryamivka, Ozerenivka. These 4 settlements are prime objective, and once they can capture this, they will be able to, you know, form a tank, you know, like this that is lying down. So they will actually be able to use this as a very strong foothold to launch new offensive towards Zaiseve, Kodema, Vyshina, and Opine. No, this will then create massive problems for the Russian side. However, they cannot even capture Andriivka, the small little town of Andriivka. They cannot even capture that at this moment. So things is pretty desperate for the Ukrainians, because they really need this to justify all the sacrifices thus far, because capturing all this farmland and the canal region is not enough. Like, really, it's not enough. So anyway, that's all I would say for the conclusions. And also the another thing is this this helicopter clash is very suspicious. This was mentioned by the Joker DPR, the hacker group, the Russian hacker group. They say this is more than meets the eye. They don't want to say much. They only say that if you believe this is an innocent accident, they say that we are naive. So yeah, no, maybe that's why the SBU is being activated to investigate how did the helicopter crash. So anyway, this is the conclusion and this is the summary. Thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next update.